Going on, legend, but welcome back to Beyond the 90. You're probably wondering, Neil, it's quite warm. Why are you wearing loads of stuff? Turns out I got a bit ill, been a bit ill recently today. So again, I've went to bed after the game, woke up, and now I can't go back to sleep. So I thought I'd record the video for you. So if you don't normally like the video, hopefully this is a good opportunity to like the video. Um, but let's get into it. You've probably seen the result. You've probably seen some of the goals. You probably want some of my thoughts in relation to this. So let's get into the first bit. So let's get into this. This was the starting lineup that the same was against Leicester. Sorry, against Birmingham. And the only change really, Lewis Page injured, is Ramsey comes in place. We'll probably come into it in a little bit. You probably know what happens. But in general, I agree with this. Let's be honest. That James is just come back from international duty. We've got Ramsey come in place. I think with Page being out, that's probably the best move. If Page was fit, I think he keeps his place and then Ramsey comes on later. But we're not going to see him for a while. You probably know why. But yeah, in terms of this, I wouldn't really have changed too much in terms of the game. So again, it was quite the first start of the game was quite frantic a little bit, and Oxford go 1-0 up. It was a well, basically, Jacobs palms it, saves the ball, palms it straight into the hands of their player. Jakobad didn't have his best game today, and I'm okay with that. You know, he's a young keeper, he's still developing. He has to learn from his mistakes, and that was a mistake. I've seen Casper do it a couple of times well, parry the ball into somebody, and then he put it in the back of the net. If we want to be able to be a long-term keeper, he's gonna have to learn from mistakes like this. But the problem is when you're a keeper, you make mistakes. It's so obvious and it's so much more threatening compared to other positions in the team. Um, but so I didn't make it too much. It was not too something that was too much, too disappointing. Someone, Jacob, you do better than that. But we know what kind of keeper he is, and we know he's better than this level. So I'm not gonna get into him too much. He did make a couple of other mistakes, but again, I'm not gonna worry too much about that. Next thing we've got obviously is the 1-1. So very quickly, they didn't have too much time to settle in the game. Their captain makes a terrible back pass. Ayu capitalises it and puts it away. It's also the first time I've seen Ayu actually celebrate for the goal as well. Kicks the ball in straight through the keeper's legs, really well taken. And normally kind of like walks off head down, etc. He actually gave it kind of the big uns. I was like, come on then. Which I was like, okay, that's cool. And also it gets us to 1-1. We're back in the game. And then okay, cool. We're on level playing field compared to if the time goes on, it makes a bit of a difference. Then let's come into it. Jacob Ramsey, clear red. Um, it was reckless. I've heard apparently that he was crying down the tunnel. He goes, it was absolutely because bearing in mind he's played for the 25 minutes. He's finally got fit from his injury. And then he goes and does that. Really reckless. The intention was good, but the execution was awful. And unfortunately now he's going to miss the next three games. If I was Marty, I wouldn't get into him. I wouldn't be like, yes, Jesus, why did you do this, etc. I think he knows. And I think the punishment is him being 3 games out, considering he was so excited to come into the team. And I'm not gonna like he should know what he's doing a little bit better. I think we should be mature enough to understand, look, it was a stupid mistake, but I think he will learn from this. Again, if I'm Marty, I'm just kind of going, listen, we can talk about this later. I would literally say, note it down. Go in there, just journal what your thoughts are, and we can have a discussion later. I've got to go back to the football and obviously get the game, etc. But obviously, with ten men, we all think, damn, not game's done, but that's changed the game now. And I remember talking to a couple of people I'm watching the match with, and I was like, one of the guys said, would you take a point now? And I still said no. I don't know how you thought at that period of time. I was like, no, I wouldn't take a point. Obviously, it ended in a point, but I still think we had enough. So what happened is that from this perspective, it really obviously affects the system because it's so system football. With Ramsey coming off, so we put him across here. Um, it meant that Ayu was dropping deep, and at times we were basically playing without a striker. Skip was dropping deeper as well. We kind of sat into everything. What I would like to have seen, which I kind of understand, there wasn't too much happened in that first half. And I think the goal from us was just to right, let's get it to half time and regroup because yes, it's against a team that are going to be finishing towards the bottom of the table. Even our bench, if we look at the bench and the strength we have on our bench, were still clear of their squad. And that's not to disrespect them at all. It just show bloody hell. We've seen the same thing when we've played against Man City, and when Man City's squad is better than their bench is better than ours. Kind of similar thing in the Championship. We were just kind of holding on. The Oxford were creating opportunities. Um, and they were giving it a go where we kind of sat back and we didn't really know how to cope with things, and they kept pressing. And then I can't remember. It was after there was one opportunity I think in that first half, and that was a Mavididi one-on-one. So he gets the ball at the halfway line. It's just him. There's no one else near him, and he's bolting forward, and he's taken three or four defenders with him on that left-hand side, and he did really, really well. And then it felt like he just didn't quite. And then the more he ran into towards the goal, the more he didn't couldn't get his ball away, couldn't get the shot on, um, and I felt like he left it a bit too late. I'm not going to bash him at all, but because the only time that towards the end of the shot, then Ayew was finally running in. We know Ayew's not blessed with pace, so he was getting into the position where he could have seen him. But I think it's harsh to say, oh, we should have seen him during that time. Um, but yeah, so that was the only other opportunity. The rest of it was just trying to kind of get a hold in the game. I'll be honest, some of the bits in the first half, Samore didn't. At time actually looked all right. I think Skip did let me down a bit. He kept giving the ball away in a very vital positions. If you're playing the midfield, you need to kind of release it. And it felt like he was bullied off the ball physically at times as well. I don't think he had his best game for us, especially since how good he was against Birmingham. I think it was one of his lull games again today. But unfortunately, again, from that, because we kept losing the ball and Oxford kept getting in good positions, and it was just a matter of time where, again, one of the guys I was with, a shout out to Ant, where he was saying when their second goal goes in, it was unfortunate. It was a Samori own goal. It was going way wide of that, but Samori comes off his head, didn't really know much about it, and then lands at the back of the net. Jakob had no chance. But Ant said you make your own luck, and I think he's right. I think Oxford, credit to them, they gave it. It wasn't like that was the only opportunity. It was against the run of play. They were creating the better opportunities, and they were going for it. And credit to them, we didn't get up the pitch enough, in my opinion. Yes, we're down to 10 men, but we didn't get control of the ball. And when we did get the ball, it wasn't going to the wingers because again, Ayew's not got that much pace. He's going to have to replace Aaron Ramsey in that position, and you got your two wingers. They're going to give you the pace, and they're going to give the opportunity. So I was a bit disappointed coming into the second half that we didn't really get much of it. But I understood. Look, let's get this to half time, regroup, rebalance the team, and then we can try again. But I think going forward, not to say we have to play the same way, because listen, 10 versus 11, it makes a big difference. We're going to have to restructure a couple of things. Um, And then we get into the second half. I'm thinking, okay, what we gonna try and do here? And I thought at the second half, okay, could play a 4-4-1. We could try and bring the wingers in, and try and play something a little bit different. But Marty, do you know what? Before I get into what exactly he did, credit to him for half time making two substitutions and trying something different. Even if it hadn't have worked, I'm really glad that he did. With other managers, and I think this is a really good point that I read, I think on Twitter. I don't think that Ruud or Cooper would have got any points out of those games. Um, because you had to change things up. Maybe even Enzo wouldn't have got some. We love Enzo and we know what he does, but I don't know if Enzo would have got the most out of him as well. So then half time comes around, and we saw Ricardo and Winks standing on the touchline. I'm thinking, okay, so we're taking off Hamza, we'll take off Skip, and then we'll probably play these two. Not quite. So I'll get into the formation. What happened? So it was kind of this formation. First person he takes off is Mavididi for Ricardo. And I was thinking, what is happening here? Obviously, he's not going to play in this position. He's going to play in the right back. Okay, what was going to happen? And then the next player, and this kind of you can see where we're going now. And the next position he plays, he takes off Samori and puts in Winks, which I was thinking, okay, what's he going to do here? And what happened is he essentially turned into a 3-5-1. So you've got Vestergaard, Okoli. I think it was more like Okoli moved over, but I did notice that Normally, we see Vestergaard on the left and Okoli on the right in the first half. They switched. Um, we've said before that Thomas and Vestergaard can be a little bit of a Thomas at times looks a bit lacking of pace, a little bit lost, and Vestergaard, you can see that side. So I think Martin did make the switch. Okoli was playing here, and Vestergaard was playing here. But let's go back to this. So the reason why we decided to go this way. So Okoli came over here, Vestergaard in the middle, Hamza here, Ramsey. Let's just put him away because obviously he was substituted. He was sent off. Sorry. Thomas then also came up here. You had your double pivot. You had Ayu here, and you kind of played like a weird two up top with Fatawu kind of playing either side. Didn't really get as much into the game, and then Ricardo came in and stepped in. So essentially playing like this, which I thought was a good move because let's be honest, our strength is in kind of the middle of the pitch with Fatawu as well, but this strength again is something that I mentioned before, where we'd play something like this and play fast. Remember, I said the 3-2-2-3 in the last video that I did. So this again, it's changing the principles of the 3-5-1, 3-4-2 formation that we were playing. I think it worked. Ricardo coming in was really attacking. Hamza, just to let you know, I don't think Hamza had a bad game since he's come into the squad. I think he's looked solid. Some people have called for Ricardo to start throughout the game, which I can kind of understand, but I still understand Hamza's not done anything wrong to lose his place. But this formation could get both into the team, and also it protects Ricardo because we know he's injury prone. So we don't want him to get injured. So I'm okay with him playing 45 minutes of the game. And we'll come into his goal a little bit later. So we kind of played to this formation. So we played Winks and Skip, who I think did okay. Winks did some really good stuff and shows that he is sometimes some really nice wiggling around. Sometimes the players would just take him out. And so we started the game on the front foot, which was great. Considering we had 10 men, we've got to put in the grind and the grit. And I think Oxford were good for the game, and that showed in the result overall. So we're 2-1 down, and Marty decides to do something different. And what he does is he decides to play this formation. Now, immediately from the kickoff, we had a lot more control of the game. That's why the title is, well, the thumbnail's a game of two halves, which is very cheesy, but it does make a difference. Considering we're down, we try something new. I think we did well. There wasn't like a load of moments to come, but the goal comes from a lovely 1-2 that was between Ricardo, Fatawu, 1-2 again, obviously off the pitch, and then the ball goes in the back of the net. It was one of the best moves I've seen this season. Really, really good. And it shows you that Marty's tactically gets it. We're down 10 men. We've got to adapt to the scenario. We've got to be adapt to the circumstances. There's nothing we could do. We've got 45 minutes. I think this was good. Vestergaard, I think, looked good in the game. Okoli looked really solid at centre back. Skip, I'll be honest, I think he didn't give his best. I don't think he would give his best game. I just think he's so inconsistent. But now we've got James coming in. That could be another move. Anyway, so we were getting into the game. We scored the 2-2, and I think we were trying for the third goal, which was great. But it wasn't like throw everything forward. It was a reserved, but we feel like we built into the game a little bit more. Next substitution, Fatawu comes on for Daka, which I was surprised at. I thought he would put in. I thought he'd put in Carranza. To be honest with you, now I've mentioned the last one. I'd play the top two, but because obviously you're one player down, you can't do that. We can, but it leaves too many space elsewhere. So Daka came on. Ayu dropped into the 10, and I thought, okay, that's fine. With that kind of formation or how we were playing, and this was like a like for like swap. Apart from Ayu dropping deeper, I thought Ayu potentially was probably going to come off earlier than he did because he's played twice. I think he scored in. I want to keep calling it AFCON in international break. So this is one thing that we've got at the moment. So with Daka coming here, Ayu's taking up these positions. He did look a bit leggy after about 70 minutes. He gave everything for the team. We know what he's like, but there was just some pace, etc., that was missing. Um, and we started to play better in the game. We started to like to do certain things, which I enjoyed. Um, and then a very strange sub. He brings off Hamza, and then he puts in James. And I wasn't too sure what the purpose of that was. I think James was playing up in this position as well. So he was playing kind of those three in midfield, and we went very narrow. So Ricardo jumped back to kind of this. We kind of played like a 4-3-2 as well. So we decided to lose our width. Now we've got Fatau off, and let's be honest, and we were playing through the middle and we tried to get some more balls and trying to get everything very central. Now, if you've not got any wingers on the pitch, it makes more sense, and we're trying to secure that place. And it did work for a bit. We were trying things through the middle, and it didn't quite work out. So James, I thought was a good substitution. I think he looked physical and great when he came off the bench. I still think bearing in mind he's played twice on international duties, a box to box for Wales. Um, I think he'll be again a great player. So in this formation, this team, I think we can see, as mentioned before, James playing the skip role. It'll be interesting to see who they play as the number 10 if Louis Page isn't fit. I think Louis Page goes back into the team if he is um, against Coventry, and well, we'll come into some of the bits later on. But James, I think, did well for his first game, considering only given like 22 minutes. If you've watched his interview on the Leicester City channel, he's really up for the challenge and he wants to be here. And he's really like, I can't wait to start. I can't wait to be here. And it's such an infectious energy that I've not seen from a player. No offense to any other player, but I've not seen in a while. So the great that they're showing that side of things. And I think he does want to be here. I think his time in France hasn't been successful. He didn't. I don't know if didn't adapt to the culture or the football, different language. So we've got an opportunity to get out of there. I think he's going to be great for us. The last substitution, I was surprised at. Are you coming off? Not surprised. Decode over Reed. Now on Thursday, I think I've said Decode over Reed for me can play the number 10. And I think he's an option to potentially play the number 10 if Page is not available. I think he could play out wide. I think he could play in the half space that we are used to as well. So it was good to see him get a couple of minutes. He did play more on that left hand side, normally like the half spade left hand, but he only had a couple of minutes, so I can't really judge him. But overall, I think it's a good point. Um, and this puts us in a good position in the table overall. Now, at the time of recording, if I just refresh this, yeah, pretty sure. So I think it's a good point. The team's going to learn from something. We're going to miss Ramsey for the next couple of games, and that's. I think he will feel that, and he's going to not make his reckless challenges. I see this a similar way to not as bad, but remember when Fatawu got sent off against Kov last 2 years ago? It wasn't bad. It was great player, but he's just made a stupid decision at a stupid time, and he's going to learn the hard way, I think. Now, if we come into the table, considering it's a good result. Again, 3 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss, 5 games ball, puts us in the playoff spots. I think we're in a good position. Um, Sorry, my brain's going a little bit, but hopefully that was a little bit useful. I've not got broke down specifics. Marty's, I think, deserves credit. I think the players deserve credit. Um, we could do better, but considering where we are, considering the manager's been in for what, about 2 months now? Well, just about 2 months, yeah. I think he's adapting really well. I've really enjoyed his interview on When You're Smiling on Thursday. So if you've not checked out the 1 hour interview with on the BBC, make sure you check that out. But yeah, hopefully that was useful. Hopefully it wasn't too much of a mind ramble. I feel like I've rambled on a little bit. Um, but yeah, if you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe. I'm trying to get somebody for the COV preview. If not, I'll see you for the COV game. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. So goodbye.